Hey there, Izzy B here, and today I'm showing you how I make a children's book all the way from idea to finished product. There's gonna be a lot of information, so make sure you buckle up and stay tuned because I'm gonna be teaching you literally every step I go through to make a finished children's book. Here it goes. So first things first, I do everything starting out by hand. That's right, I write my story by hand and all my ideas. Why? Because this gets the brain working the right way. So when I'm writing my story, I'll start out doing at least 10 drafts by hand, correcting those drafts, marking it out until I have a story that flows. And this is all before I even take it to the electronic side. So tip number one, write your story by hand and make sure that it's critiqued down to the bare minimum and simple before you even take it to the computer. All right, we're ready to go. I just finished rewriting my story for the 10th time, and now I'm transferring all those words on paper to a Word document. Now I'm gonna show you what this looks like so you can see how I write a story in a Word document and how I put it together and what it looks like. So let's take a look. Something that I really wanna make sure I point out is simplicity. I'm keeping the story simple. I'm not going into huge detail about each chicken, describing what they look like, describing the details of where they're from. I'm staying focused on the story so that it flows well. You'll notice my word count, 300 words. I like to keep my stories less than 500 words. I'm also trying to make sure that I stay within 28 pages of my story, and you'll see that when you look at my manuscript. You'll also notice some blue. I am making illustration marks. Illustration marks are great for if you're trying to find an agent. I like to do it just so I can keep track of the way I'm thinking and what's going through my head, because it's important to think like an illustrator when you're writing a children's book. Okay, we could look at this Word document all day, but I'd rather tell you what I do with it. I'll print this out, and then I'll get a red pen and I'll start marking out things that I don't need for the story, things that are important, things that I can do as an illustrator, and things that I can show. I make sure that it shows and not tells. That is huge. Make sure that I am showing the story and not telling what's happening. Instead of saying the chicken was hungry, I can say the chicken's stomach grumbled. Do you see how that shows what's happening and it's not me telling? These are important things to make sure that I do when I am editing my story. Okay, so we have our story all edited and ready to go. We've edited it by hand. We've also printed it out electronically and edited it there too. We've really fine-tuned it, and now it's ready for the next stage. And the next stage is planning. So I have a template here that I use, and I like to do this also by hand. Go figure. And what I'll do is I'll start planning the book by pages. Now here's some things that you'll notice. I am printing this book in bulk. So when I plan this, I'm planning it for the printer I use. I start out with 2 end pages, and one of those pages will be glued down. Oh, I love me some good old-fashioned end pages. They're a lot of fun, and you can just kind of go crazy and do whatever you want. For Chicken Wig, I think I'm going to have a bunch of chickens with hair looking fabulous like a fashion show. It's going to be great. I have a dedication and copyright page, and then a title page. Now, for my title page, I like to plan on this to be really simple. Title pages should not be very elaborate. That's the page I usually sign and autograph and things like that. You don't want that to be like a crazy page that's full of distractions and things like that. So for this page, I might just have one chicken with their hair going all glorious and things like that. Then I just start breaking it down into pages. Now these are broken down by 2-page spreads, and I'll write a little bit underneath it to kind of explain what's going on in each illustration, and that's what these lines are for. Here's the cool part. You can find this template on my website under Author Resources. So go check it out and download it for yourself, and I'm giving it to you for free. Free. Okay, so I'm gonna print this out, and then we're going to plan this book by hand before I transfer it over to the final pages. Okay, so now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be transferring some of these words and images over to my plan page. And it's going to be really simple. I'm just going to draw simple little images inside these boxes to kind of just get an idea of what I want to plan the book before I start fully illustrating. Something else to note is that I would like to tell which of these are 2-page spreads and which are single illustration pages, so I kind of get a better idea of what that'll look like for the final story. Okay, so we have our book planned by hand. Now I'm going to plan it by paper. And so what I do is I like to take those words that I have from my Word document and I like to put them in a Google slide. I'm kind of storyboarding my story, and as you can see, I like to separate it by page. So this is page 1. Leroy Luds raised the finest hens. They were award-winning type, laying big old eggs the size of silver dollars. So I put this as I would in a 2-page spread. So this would be a 2-page spread. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to print this out again and kind of make a mock children's book. I know this seems like a lot of steps, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Planning your book is very important so that when you get to those final steps, it all flows and comes naturally. So I'm going to print this out again and draw really rough illustrations of what I want. Okay, so now I have my pages, and this is a 2-page spread, and I'm kind of just planning out what I just wrote in my plans that I had before and also in my Word document. So I'm taking it and kind of putting it all together, and I'll draw a really rough idea of what that'll look like so I could see a 2-page spread in rough form. Now this is the final step before I take this to the final sketches and final coloring. So it's important that I do this right and I really draw what I want this page to look like. I'll do this for the entire book before I start making my first rough sketches. So for this first page, I wanted it to be, you know, and it doesn't have to be really in detail. I just wanted a mantle, and I want there to be trophies, maybe a photo right here of my farmer, you know, and I don't have to draw it in huge detail, with his chickens, maybe like a first place trophy here because, you know, he makes the finest eggs, maybe a blue ribbon right here. It's also smart to plan where you want the words. It's okay to do that on this page even though I already have words on it, because something that I see a lot of people do when they're planning a children's book is they forget where the words go. Now you might be just writing your book as an author, but I recommend doing this even if you're not an illustrator, because it's important for you to see what your book will look like. Because when you want to send this to your illustrator, you want your book ready to go and fine-tuned. So I recommend every children's book author does this step, even if you're not illustrating your own book. Yeah, ready to make the final versions of our book? This is the exciting part where everything we just did and planned comes together. So I will take my ideas and put them into Photoshop. Photoshop is where I make my final pages. I start with a rough sketch. So let's check it out. Here are some things that you need to know before I really dive into making this book, and that is picking my trim size. So for this book, I am actually doing a trim size of 10 by 10. It's not your typical trim size, and I don't recommend doing this if you're planning on using KDP to print your book. I'm printing this book in bulk, and my printer can make 10 by 10, and I really like the way the book looks. But KDP and companies like Ingram don't support 10 by 10 books, so I don't recommend it. We're looking at my trim size right here, and you'll notice my width is 20.25. In another video, I explained how we get that trim size, but I'm going to do it really quick just so you know. Okay, so our width, you'll notice our width is 20.25. Now you're probably saying, why wouldn't it be just 20? Our book is 10 by 10, it's a 2-page spread. 10 plus 10 is 20, right? Well, no, we're adding 10.125 plus 10.125 because we have 2 pages. For the width, we only add 0.125 one time. So the height, why is the height 10.25? Well, even though it's a 2-page spread, we only have one height, right? But for the height, we add 0.125 to the top and the bottom. So it's 10, because we only have one height, plus 0.125 plus 0.125. And that's how I got 10.25. Hopefully that explains it, but that is how we get the bleed. And that's the page dimensions I'm working with here for my trim size. It might look differently for yours, but this is what I'm doing. If you'll notice, I have this blue line down the middle. That just gives me an idea of where my page is separated. This is a 2-page spread. I don't want to have any important things close to that blue line because that's called the gutter. You don't put important stuff in the gutter, do you? No, you put trash in the gutter. Okay, so now that I have my page kind of planned out, I'm going to start doing a really rough sketch. Alright, so we just finished our sketch, and that's exciting because now we're ready for the final color. This is the best part because your book starts to come to life. I'm not going to show you the final color on that one I just finished because you never know how long an illustration takes to color. Sometimes it could take me up to 2 weeks. Most of the time it takes a day or 2 days. Now here's something I want you to see before I show you the final color, and that is my palette. Now I use these palettes from Coolers, I think that's what it's called, who knows. So let's check out this final color and just kind of look at it and see how we're almost ready for the final stages of my book. So here it is. Here's the final color of this page. My words will go right here and my words will go right here. This is a 2-page spread and it is page 3 and 4. So this is all part of that planning that I did previously. Once I have all my pages ready to go, I can put them all together and send it off to the printer. That's the exciting part. But before we get to that, let's check out the cover. You know, a cover actually is very important. You know that old saying, don't judge a book by its cover? Yeah, right. Have you ever not judged a book by its cover? Everyone judges a book by its cover, okay? So it's important that you really focus on the cover. Sometimes it's the very first thing that I do. This was the rough sketch that I did. I wanted something fun. I have a story about chickens with hair, okay? So I wanted to make sure I planned it. There's a lot of fun going on, but I want to make sure that the focus for my cover is on the title itself, okay? So let's see the final cover. Let's see the final color for my cover. That's hard to say. Final color for my cover. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, I planned this out too because I wanted to make sure I left space right here for what? What do you think? What's going to go there? The barcode. That's right. You need to leave space for your barcode. Now I want to show you something super cool. I had someone, a fan, who saw this cover and they loved the cover so much. Mind you, this book isn't even done yet, that they knitted a character from this cover. Check it out. Isn't that awesome? I love it so much. So this is Diana Sauce. Yeah. She's singing. Sing something for him, Diana Sauce. Okay. So it's our chicken with hair. Isn't she awesome? I love her so much. Maybe a little bit too much. I love that a fan made this from a simple cover that I did. Doesn't this show how important a cover is? So make sure you don't skip out on this step. Make sure that you put your best foot forward so that you can get cool stuff like this. Okay, enough of that. This cover I'm really proud of. I'm excited to show this off. Let's start looking at the final pages for another book that I made that's already in print. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so here is the really fun and exciting part, and that's putting everything together and then getting your book in print so you can hold it in your hands. Now I'm going to show you with Devin Siebold's book, A Teacher in the Wild. So check it out. This is the cover template that I sent off to the printer for Devin's book. I had to make sure that everything was in the margins, everything was the way that they asked me to do it, and I had to also stay within the perimeters of the trim side. I want to show you something else that's super cool that you might not know. This took me a while to learn, and that is UV. This is a UV file. Now what UV is that gloss that you put on the cover that makes your words shine. And I'm going to show you the final cover so you can see what I mean. If you look at Devin's book and you look at do you see that shine right there? Now, look at that shine. You see it? You see how it's all shiny like that? Isn't that cool? You see how everything that's in black on my UV cover shines on my real cover? That's because I sent UV to the printer. Only make sure that the words are in black that I want in UV, and it's the same template as my other cover. Because if you go back and forth, you'll notice, check it out, you'll notice it's the exact same. I'm just telling them where I want them to put the shine. Now, let's look at the interior pages. These are the interior pages that I sent to the printer. Okay, so this is the end pages, this is the title page, and the dedication page. And I'm not going to show you all these because Devin might not want me to show you all the pages. But this is page 1 and 2. And as you can see in the book, page 1 and 2. So I use the same template, and this is also a 10 by 10. This book is a 10 by 10 size, and this is the exact same interior pages that I sent to the printer. Okay, so I just send them this file after I combine all the pages on an Acrobat PDF. The final thing that I want to show you is that same book that I sent off to that printer in bulk. I want to show you how I made the files for Kindle Direct Publishing, or KDP, on Amazon. Now, I have another video right here where I show you in depth, by detail, how to put a book on Kindle Direct Publishing on Amazon. So check out this video if you want to go really in depth on how to format and publish a book with Amazon. I'm just going to show you a really quick version so you can see how I did everything for Devin's book, and then we'll look at the final result. So this is the cover that I used for Kindle Direct Publishing, and what you should know is that I use their actual template. Now this book is 8.5 by 11. Now that was a kind of a challenge because I had to take a book that I made 10 by 10 and transfer it all to 8.5 by 11. So you'll notice it looks a lot different. Let's look at the interior pages of Devin's book. Now you'll notice something. It starts out on a right-hand page. You'll also notice that instead of doing a 2-page spread, these are single-page spreads, and that's how you set up a book and format it with Amazon. So this is just one page, and it starts out on the right. So this is the title page. This next page is the left page of a 2-page spread, and then this is the right page of a 2-page spread. So now I'm finally getting into my story. So this is page 1, page 2, so on. So it goes left, right, left, right, left, right. I upload these into Kindle Direct Publishing, and bing bang boom, 2 or 3 days later, and you got yourself a book. Pretty cool, pretty snazzy. So I know that was a lot of information, but I hope that you got a lot out of it. Now you see how I make a children's book, all the way from idea and writing it by hand to fully finished, fully functioning children's book that you can buy at the store and take with you on school visits. So get out there, start writing, start making some books, and then maybe someday you can have a really awesome chicken made from your book, just like me. Say bye, chicken. Remember to like and subscribe. Remember to like and subscribe. All right, have a good day. More to come. Stay tuned. Izzy B signing out.